and welcome to Blighty Day Fiancé, your third or fourth favorite reality TV recap podcast. My name is Michelle.
My name is Robin.
And today we're giving you a mini, teeny tiny little 1 to 12 scale recap of the first 4 episodes of season 5 of Netflix's Love is Blind. The reason we're being extra super economical is, frankly, we don't have the time or the bandwidth to cover every single episode. But let's face it, you've already listened to your top 3 or 4. They've gone through it beat by beat. You're familiar with the cast of characters, and we're just here to give you our take on it.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Look, here's the deal. We're going to get into a little bit more detail when it comes to Love is Blind once they leave the pods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we always feel about Love is Blind, like the pod stuff. Although you do enjoy it at the time, when you think back on the seasons, you do not remember the pods, right? Right? I think.
Or indeed the tertiary characters.
Yeah, totally. So like the fun begins, I think, for the next tranche of episodes. But you know, we're here, we're doing this, we're going to talk to you about the first 4, and there were a couple of stellar bombshells.
There certainly were. I do quite like the direction this is taking. So just to give us a little bit of structure here, I'm going to ask Robin some questions, and then we're just going to let the conversations flow from here. Okay. So the first question, now, you all may recall the late, great, though certainly at some points quite problematic NBC sitcom 30 Rock, helmed by Tina Fey. And there's a line where Liz Lemon says, Oprah says, you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you about certain people in the cast.
Uh-huh.
And I want you to tell me at what point that person taught other people how to treat them and how they did it.
I can do that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is Oprah smiling upon them, or is she doing one of her stern frowns? You know, which Oprah are you getting here?
Well, I'm not sure because I don't know that Oprah was the one that actually said it.
It's fine.
Which is why I brought up the 30 Rock thing.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So at what point, I'll give you an easy one first.
Okay,
at what point did Uche teach people how to treat him?
Well, he taught Aaliyah how to treat him during the Texan Inquisition of 2023, the famous, you know, no one expects the Texan Inquisition, which was like the magnificent cross-examination. It'll go down on the statute books as one of the great legal arguments of our time. Over whether or not she was a terrible cheater. I think like the complete lack of emotion or sympathy, empathy, humanity in the way he handled that, I think probably taught her that if she was going to do a runner, there's no point in like having a conversation with him. Like, why litigate it? Could you imagine, because, look, oh, I should say, I mean, this is obvious from, like, the episode title and stuff, right? We're spoiling everything, episodes 1 through 4, right? Mm-hmm. And episode 4 ends, as we know, with the voice of God. I think it is the voice of God. I think Netflix has the contract, saying, Uche, Aaliyah has left the building. And, you know, he's really shocked and stuff. And it's like, well, what are you expecting? Are you expecting her to have a conversation with you so you can just completely shut her down and talk her around? Right? So that, in that case, I think that is where he lost. He not so much like, you know, taught people in that, but certainly taught people how the only way you can function with him. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, don't even start. Don't start to have like a discussion with him where there may be differing opinions, because he will win. He is good. Like, usually you see lawyers on TV and they are not good. He is good.
He's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's how you talk to somebody that you care about.
No.
Though, I mean, I am certainly being autistic, which is a medical diagnosis for which I'm medically diagnosed, just in case anyone had any doubts. I sometimes do get stuck into the logic
Yeah.
of an argument rather than focusing on what the other person is feeling. And also being a studying law doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
help with
It's
that.
it's a
Where
fucking nightmare, everyone.
you
I
won't
can't
believe
win shit. I love
that.
it. I just can't win shit. She's too good.
Well, that's not true because you have much better endurance than I do when it comes to arguing.
Okay.
Like, you will know that you're wrong
Mhm,
and
mhm,
you'll
mhm.
just out talk me,
Yep, yep. I can
which is,
filibuster. Yep,
yeah,
yep. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
which I can't do. I get exhausted and break down and start crying. And speaking of crying, another saying, now this is tangentially Oprah related because
Uh-huh.
I saw it when Oprah had an interview with Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou said, "When somebody tells you who they are,
Yeah,
believe them."
yeah.
Can you think of a moment, and I won't give you a cast member this time. Think
Okay.
of a moment where somebody told the other person who they were.
Milton.
Yeah?
Yeah. Milton and Lydia. Milton, when she's like, I love you, Milton. I see a future. We're going to be so happy. We're going to have 12 babies and it's going to be the most beautiful thing ever. And I'll let you go around your friend's house in the middle of the night and you don't have to even look at me and everything. And he's just like, and it's not because he's overwhelmed. It's because, like, literally, he is in his head, he is rewatching like some of his favorite YouTubers playing Minecraft. That is what he's doing because he is a
Yep.
12-year-old boy. Right. He's he's not listening to a word she says in any way. Like, I think the idea of kind of trying to you know like marketing companies when they project pictures on the sides of buildings, right? We've all seen that. Like, you know,
Mhm.
I'm going to project a logo on Buckingham Palace or the White House or on the Eiffel Tower. Actually, quite hard to do that on the Eiffel Tower, to
I
be
don't
honest.
think
That's
you
not a
can
good
do
choice.
that on the White House or but anyway.
Ooh, people have gorillas. It's like she is trying to project onto Milton her idea of what a boyfriend might be, but it's like it that projection is as thick as a single electron sheet of light. Do you know what I mean? It has absolutely no substance whatsoever. It's just this tiny thin veneer of dressing him up in that garb. I don't think there's any bit of him which is what she thinks he is. But I don't even.
I want to like Lydia, but I don't.
No.
And I don't think that she is someone whose intentions are good.
Oh God, please don't let her be
I
misunderstood.
didn't even do that on purpose. I promise you I didn't. There's something, so the fact that she comes in and speaking of telling somebody who you are and that person believing them, I actually think that Izzy has greater emotional intelligence
Yeah,
than he initially presents with. So he talks a lot about mental stability and
yeah,
and emotional stability and blah blah blah, basically saying that he doesn't have room for anyone else's feelings, right?
right. Yeah.
And
Don't. What he's basically saying is, don't be crazy with me, right? It's that.
I don't like that word, but okay.
No, but that's what he's saying, right?
Yeah,
I've been in that position myself in the past. I've been like, I really don't want to be with anyone that's got issues because life's hard enough, right?
sure.
But that's a very, but they are young.
And
That is an attitude that a person may have in their 20s, right?
sure. And I remember very distinctly Johnny saying that she's used to being the person with the most baggage or the hurt person in the relationship, which I think is kind of a way of weaponizing your own trauma, which we see a lot on 90 Day Fiance, right? Like most recently with Riley weaponizing
Yeah.
having been cheated on and expecting that other people are supposed to
I
fix it for
know.
him.
People do that all the time on these shows.
Yeah.
I mean, in her case, is it too soon to say that she wasn't the hurt person in her last relationship, seeing as how that person's dead
Well,
and she's not?
that wasn't her last relationship. That was
Oh, yeah, I know.
yeah. I mean, I don't even know how many relationships ago that
The
was.
cornerstone story
There's a
in her existence. I get it. I get it, but I was going to say everyone's got something and everyone's got, but that's not fair. Like, trauma's legitimate and stuff, but you're absolutely right. She uses this. She uses this like, you have to approach me this way. You have to change who you are. You have to change your behavior. You have to forgive me more things. You have to make all of these allowances because years ago, someone I dated was a drug addict.
but
And it's like,
did you
not my fault, dude.
did you see how quickly she turned when she was rejected? Like
Oh, yeah.
she talks about, you know, oh my past is really hard and I get and I sympathize with all of that really. And I
Me too.
cannot believe that her mother said to her, maybe you're just someone who shouldn't be in relationships. If your
Well, we don't.
mom
No, but we don't know off the back of what behavior that was. So, for example, if she was with someone really, really great, treated them like shit, cheated on them with their best friend or something, do you know what I mean? Like, if she'd done really awful behavior, yeah, it's still not cool for a parent to say that to a child.
no.
But, but again, did the mum say that? Is that just what she heard? What was the context? Just saying. I don't think it's beyond credibility to think that Johnny may get things twisted in her head. That's all.
I don't know if it's a generational thing or not. I do understand, and I used to do this all the time, and particularly in my 20s, of showing up to a first date and at the time, I thought I was bipolar and that's what it was. So I was like, okay, hi, nice to meet you. I will have a margarita. I would like to tell you about the sexual assault I suffered when I was 13
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the time that I've spent in hospitals and, just going through a litany and being like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you okay with this?
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking it's better I just get everything out now so that I don't get
Understood.
rejected later. But the
Right.
problem is with that, every relationship and every dating scenario, just dating in general, it's almost like people want to be able to do it without any risk whatsoever. And
Yeah,
you
totally.
you have to take some risk.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, it's not a mark of someone for being like unsympathetic and uncaring and unkind if you haven't earned their buy-in yet,
That's right. Yeah.
right? Like you got to win them around with your good points before you start introducing them to your bad points. And again, I'm not saying that past traumas and that sort of thing are really bad points necessarily, but like, give me a reason to invest in you and then let me know what the caveats or context is for that. Because at the moment, you were just someone shouting on a bus. There's where do I fit into this in this conversation? When people are so kind of self-referential in that way. And so, you know, how do what's this got to do with me?
Right.
Right?
And every
When you hardly know the person. I don't mean that in a non-caring way, but at best, your relationship is going to be that of like a Samaritan on the phone or something. It's like during the conversation, you really care, but you're very aware of the fact that you can hang up that phone and it is not your problem, right?
right. And I'm sure they do. I'm sure the unnatural pressure and the conditions of this experiment, as they call it, does kind of force you to maybe be more emotionally raw
Yeah,
than
totally.
you necessarily would be in the real world. But I think enough. First of all, nobody has come on the show without watching the previous seasons, right?
Nope.
And that's the disadvantage that we have. Like the
Hmm.
first season is always going to be I shouldn't say always, is often going to get the best results because nobody's done it before, so it's a lot more natural.
Yeah,
And so
totally.
people will come into this now going, okay, people definitely get closer to each other when they're vulnerable, but I get the feeling that a lot of these people are that way naturally, Lydia especially, and I know I'm being extra hard on her, but I just think
Oh, Lydia doesn't show any vulnerability.
mm-mm.
What she shows is not vulnerability at all. Like she weaponizes past pain and that stuff. So it's actually, she doesn't weaponize it. It's the opposite. She uses it as a big old fluffy inflatable sumo suit of defensive puff, right? You can't get anywhere near what's at the core of her because there's just layers upon layers upon layers of don't hurt me. So
she's she also instinctively makes me feel uncomfortable because have you ever been out or at a party or something and there's that one person who's really drunk and they absolutely reek, but they kind of, put their hands on your shoulders to steady
yeah,
themselves. So, you're at that,
yeah.
like the office Christmas party or whatever, and this person is like right in your face. When she was doing that with Aaliyah, I got really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I'm not somebody who, my personal bubble is quite a big one to begin with, but
Yeah.
she's just kind of like slurring her words and going like, "Baby, I am you, you are me." And then of course
Fresh off her breakfast, Malibu and
woo,
orange.
I mean, yeah, that is a lot.
When we were watching it, I thought that she reminds me more than anyone. She reminds me of Barney from The Simpsons. Like I expected her to
That's
belch,
mean.
but she's got that vibe.
No, that's really mean.
Well, I'm really mean then.
Okay, well, you can keep it in, but I don't.
Barney's a nice guy, but he's a little much.
He's like a caricature of well, whatever. I'm gonna go.
Well,
I'm
well,
I'm just gonna breeze past that. I just don't want to be held responsible
that's
for
fine.
it.
That's fine.
Um, people are gonna.
It's cool. They ply them with booze, and some people just can't handle their drink. That's the thing. So I suspect that's the case with her. Not that actually she'd had any more than anyone else necessarily, but
It was
yeah,
also definitely like 10 o'clock in the morning. I
right.
know they
That's
keep.
all I'm saying.
I'm sure they keep casino time there
Oh
because
yeah,
I don't think anyone wears watches. I don't think there's clocks anywhere. That those are conditions that will put you in a different place psychologically.
yeah. It's
Um,
Stanford Prison. It's
yeah.
that's where the pods are. It's cheap studio space.
Oh, I see a little bulldog who
There
has
is a
something to
bulldog trying to get away.
say.
That big old baby.
Aw.
Yeah, they shut down the that particular prison, but then the various cells were converted into the pods. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it wasn't a prison. It was
I
at a
know.
university. Okay. Well, I
I know.
don't know.
I
Um,
know.
so we go from the sort of bigger personalities onto the personalities that can be summed up as holidays. So when 4th of July, Independence Day meets Christmas, we get JP and Taylor.
Yeah. Is she Christmas though?
Yeah, Christmas is her favorite
Oh,
holiday.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's the sort of person that shops at Bronner's. Have I spoken about Bronner's
You
on a podcast
have,
before?
yes, and
Yeah.
a lot of our Midwestern bays came at us, and
Oh,
yeah.
Frankenmuth Bays. Yeah. That's a that's a place and a half though. Yeah. Anyone that says Christmas who sort of builds themselves around that, it's deeply, deeply disturbing, isn't it? I get it that you might really, really like that and everything, but it's like it is fundamentally just a very small part of the year. Um, but people do that. People do that. She scares me a little bit, but I think I have a funny feeling that I'm going to warm to her quite a lot on the honeymoons. He is my bet for this year's low-key psychopath.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't see it that way at all. I mean, him being Enneagram flag aside and
Mm,
not being able to have or develop an aesthetic or a personality beyond hashtag these colors don't run.
yeah.
I think he is quite a simple person, and simple doesn't mean stupid. I just mean I think he's somebody who is maybe done growing and maybe doesn't have aspirations beyond, and don't get me wrong, because I envy people like this
Oh,
so
sure.
hard. I am ambitious to the core and driven to the core, and that doesn't mean that I get anything done. It just means that I'm really disappointed with myself all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chronically disappointed.
No, I'm the same. I always, and again, this is not a dig in any way at our wonderful postal workers. My fantasy was always to be a postman.
You stole
Um,
that from Fargo season
no,
1.
they stole it from me. I've been saying it for years and years and years and
Really?
years and years. Absolutely.
Okay.
Um, just the idea of having, these are the letters that have to be delivered. At the end of the day, I have delivered those letters. There is literally no other work I can do here. It is just completely finite, right?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
I think
that's just a joy.
you can compare that.
Also, I'm sure carries its own downsides. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anything where, or like being a mechanic, right? Or anything where you're given a job, you do the
Mm.
job,
Intre
move on
altre.
to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being a mechanic might be different though. Because I think there's like levels of how well you do the work and the pride that you take in it. And not that, again, our wonderful postal workers don't take great pride, but it's like ultimately, if you're putting a letter through a
Right.
door,
I'm going to take the shovel out of your hand and we're going to move on. Okay?
yeah, yeah,
Let's do
yeah.
that. So,
But no, I think he might have unexplored anger issues, and I think they may burst out of him. That said, I'm not buying this whole "my mum was mean to my sisters" thing as like what's your trauma. But I don't put that on him. I put that on the producers. Like any of these shows, the idea that these people have unprompted conversations. I don't think we should take that too seriously. I think there's other voices in those pods. I'm
yeah,
sure of
of
it. I'm sure
course.
conversations are guided, right? So I'm sure he was encouraged. I mean, she asks him, right? But I think he's encouraged. Well, you better think of something, otherwise you're gonna. How are you gonna compete with these other trauma monkeys unless you got something, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I don't think that's coming back up. But I think who. What was the couple last year? The ballet dancer and the lunatic.
Oh, Colleen and Matt.
Yeah. You see, I think we've got a Matt there. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
We'll
I
see.
mean,
We'll see.
we'll see. I think the
Yeah.
big issue between them is going to be I'm going to get a lot of shit for this. I don't know very many kindergarten teachers who are from, I think she comes from money, and I could be wrong about this. I think she comes from money, and I think teaching is not the goal for her.
Right.
Um, I'm
But I think
just,
that's fine with him. I genuinely think this is two people, leaving aside the fact that I think there may be problems, but I think white picket fence, 2.5 kids is what they both want. So
yeah,
actually, could be a great match.
okay. I hear you. And I'm not trying to railroad you here, although I can feel myself getting impatient. And for that, I apologize to the listeners and to you, obviously. Um, 2.5 kids in a white picket fence in 1988 was possible for a teacher and a firefighter.
Yeah.
They are in
Yeah.
Houston,
Yeah.
which is not cheap. And again, I think somebody who came from money and somebody who didn't. And, it worked for Alexa and Brennan. They are still together as far as we know. And they had a massive income disparity. But
Yeah.
I think that he doesn't have a problem with accepting her dad's money. I think JP is going to be held to a different standard because
Mm.
you can't have two kids. I mean,
You're right.
yeah,
You're
you
right.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
She's going to want to be the stay-at-home mum, and he is not going to make enough money.
No,
It's
no.
true. You're right. It's really sad. But if that is the model that you want to live by, the breadwinner has got to have a big old bread bag.
Yeah, and I mean,
And sadly, firefighters do not get paid enough.
no,
So
they really
yeah,
don't. And
no.
I and I know people who have those kinds of jobs where you know, it's a God, I forget what you call it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But teacher, law enforcement,
Vocation,
nurse. Yes.
a calling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The heroes. Yeah.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
are heroes and we love you. Particular shout out to NHS workers. You are the backbone of our society.
Yeah,
Um,
but you are paid like small little dogs that may be thrown a tiny little bit of kibble every now and then, and you should be grateful. And that's obviously not the way the real world works. So yes, I think you have a valid point. What other questions do you have? Who else would you like to explore?
okay. So when I did my film degree, my focus was on screenwriting, and I have a point, I promise. And the question that we were always encouraged to ask ourselves is when you have a protagonist, that's your main character, right?
Hmm, hmm.
What do they want and what do they need?
Okay.
And how are those two things in conflict with each other? So let's talk about Izzy and her name isn't Rachel, Stacy. What do I want to call her?
It's so
I'm going to
weird because
call her her name isn't Rachel from now on.
my name is not Susan. Um, she really looks like a Rachel. She does not look like a Stacey.
No, I wouldn't have thought Stacy. Stacy's also very much more of a 70s name. I
Mm,
think 70, like your generation name versus
yeah.
my generation name. Not many. I can't think
Yeah,
of
there's nothing
single.
racy about Stacey. Stacey is quite a Janet name.
Oh, I just had really bad reflux. All that iced coffee
Nothing
first thing
against
in the morning.
any beautiful Janets. For a long time before people started using the word Karen, um, Michelle and me have like workshopped in our private lives the character of Janet. Um,
When you say
uh,
workshopped in our private lives,
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
the one
It's
who's
not a sex
Janet.
thing.
No, it's not a
Yeah,
sex thing.
I can be Janet. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
Janet's a bit like well, anyway, let's not
yeah.
digress.
No,
So,
but Stacey is a Janet name.
yeah,
You get Stacey on the phone, and she is not helpful.
no.
Yeah, she clocks off at exactly 5 p.m.
So what does Izzy want and what does he need and how are those two things in conflict with each other?
Izzy wants to look like anything more than a fuckboy. He really wants that. He really wants to look like hunky man holding baby in his arms in 1980s poster style,
Mhm.
right? But what he needs is to not be any of those things and just go to the gym and fuck blondes. That's it. Like he is archetypal fuckboy, but he is aware that in this day and age you have to have more layers. And it's not his fault for wearing those layers like a very, very ill-fitting suit. That's the fashion of the times, but it doesn't fit him at all. I don't think it does. And he can pretend to be sensitive in some ways, but he's just not. And that's okay.
I'm going to challenge you on
Mystery,
that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
no, that's okay. Did I misread?
I don't know if you've misread it. I think that you've dismissed him. I think he is a fuckboy, absolutely. And I would say that to, he wants to have fun and he wants to be able to have it both ways. So he wants to be able to appear deep and sensitive and stable, to use his
Yeah.
words, and mentally
Hmm.
stable and emotionally stable.
Yep.
Um, I actually think that in a relationship, and I think he wants other people to see him that way. I think he
Yeah.
wants the sort of Insta perfect lifestyle that he's
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about. I think he wants all of those things. But I actually think he needs someone to hold him to account and to hold him to a higher standard. And I think Stacy, and this isn't me dismissing her at all, because I think she's fantastic television. She is effervescent in a way that nobody else
I
in
never
that
understand,
cast is.
why do people go on shows like this, right? And just sit there going, oh.
No,
It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean,
Like, she was immediately a shot in the arm. She's like, bang! And I know she's supposed to be the villain of the season, but I like her. She's alive. She makes my TV come alive.
yeah, she pops on screen, and
Yeah.
she's a joy to watch.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, she is a chick who can hang. She's
Right.
cool. She likes sports. She's not going to complain. And I think the issue that she is going to have is that she has her own wants, needs, desires, expectations. But I think it's going to be a challenge for her to ask for what she needs and ask for what she wants and be assertive about that, which requires a level of vulnerability, right? Especially when you've
Yeah, yeah. It's screw from her side because she finds that really hard, saying that she needs something
yep,
and showing that she's not already 100% happy,
yeah,
right? And then
exactly.
on his side, he's like, I just want somebody stable and happy, right? So the fact that there are other things that she needs is going to be like, why are you keeping these things from me? What is this agenda? This is complicated, and that isn't the deal.
Right,
So
right.
they're both fucked in that regard.
And this is going to sound totally counterintuitive, but these two people are actually very codependent.
Mm,
He needs for whoever he's with to never be upset with him
yep,
and to
that's
never
right.
be upset, period, which is why he
Yep.
couldn't deal with any of Lydia. And to she needs to impress whoever she's with at all times, and she's got to be the best you've ever had and the greatest. And I actually think these problems are really good problems to have, and I don't think that this is a season of villains that's going to be really boring. I think that there are some really good seeds that have been sown here, and they're germinating, and they're going to grow into delicious, dramatic television for us all to enjoy.
Yeah. Um, do we feel that we have left anything on the table? And I'm aware that this is a very quick hello, season 5 of Love is Blind, rather than a great in-dive, depthy thing. We will be getting significantly more in-depth for future episodes because things get, I think, very much juicier. This is like the pre-negotiation for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is the
Right?
pre-trial negotiations.
Yeah,
This is
I want to get into the courtroom, right?
yeah,
I want to get into the bedroom. I want to get into the courtroom, and so that's when the juicy shit starts happening. But I will just say, I'm enjoying it. I think there is good potential. I wasn't sure about this cast at first, but they've fucking done it again, haven't they? Those bastards.
well, thank you, my beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful husband.
Thank you, my gorgeous, beautiful wife. If you want to hear more Love is Blind stuff, and where we can maybe, I just want to say, get a little bit, little racier, a little juicier, a little meaner. Don't know. We're going to be dropping the rest of the episodes on our Patreon. So that is patreon.com/BlightyDay, BLIGHTYDAY. So come and join us there. You'll get ad-free pods of everything that we do. So that's everything in the 90-day universe, System-wise, Plathville, all kinds of stuff. So come and join us at the Patreon, or, stick around on whatever feed you're on for whatever you get.
That's right. And right now, everyone is furiously Googling, who is Bonnie from The Simpsons? What character was Bonnie? Like Bonnie.
Bonnie was too drunk to appear on the screen. It was a nightmare.
That's why I let it go. All right. I have to go get blood taken. Everyone wish Robin luck, because I am going to be clinging to him like Lydia after a Malibu and orange at 9 o'clock in the morning. All right. Love you guys. We will
love you.
See you soon.